Hello everyone. Here in this video we'll discuss how we can connect elements in Rhino and Grasshopper. So right hand side we have so many components in Grasshopper, and on left hand side we have Rhino. So we type the command line and we draw a line in Rhino. It is not connected anyhow with Grasshopper. Now if we want to connect the line with Grasshopper, we have to take a component, line component, then we'll take the cursor to start point and we'll right click on it. We'll select set one point, then we'll set a point in Rhino, and then again we'll select another point for endpoint. Then there will be a line drawn in the Rhino, but it is still not connected with the Rhino. It will not move. Then we'll take 2 points in Rhino, and then we'll select those points, choosing the component parameter, input parameter, then both the points will be connected. Then it can be movable. So this is how these 2 points will be connected to form a line. So now Grasshopper and Rhino are connected. So next we will use multiple components in Grasshopper, and we'll draw 2 curves in Rhino using curve command. Then we'll divide those curves, both the curves, into 20 segments. So we have to separately divide the curve. We'll type a command divide curve, and in how many segments we have to enter that. Let's say we have divided into 20 segments. So both the curves have been divided into 20 segments. But in Grasshopper, what we can do is we will select line component, as we have already selected one line component. You can also double click on the canvas of Grasshopper and type whatever component you want to use. So we have used this line component and right clicked on start point, then select multiple points, and we'll select the multiple points on one curve. Then what we'll do, we'll again repeat the process and right click on end point, select multiple points, and then we'll select all the points whichever there in curve, second curve. Now you can see on the Rhino interface that the points have been joined. What we can do is we can increase, decrease like the number of segments in a curve. So what we will do is we'll delete all the points, all the divisions which we have made, and then we'll freshly use divide curve component. So basically divide curve component have curve count and kinks, input parameters, points, tangents, and parameters as output parameters. So this is basically a component. So we'll right click on curve and then select one curve on the Rhino interface, and then we will again use the same divide curve command. Again repeat the process for the second curve. Now what we have to do is we will select a line component and we'll join the line component with both the divide curve components, like what we have done in the Grasshopper interface. You can see on your screen. So this is how it has connected both the curves with a line. Now if I want to increase the number of lines between these two curves, then change the number of segments by going in count parameter and set the integer from 10 to 20, let's say 20, in both the components, in both the divide curve components. And you can go and change the number of segments in one go. Use integer component from params primitive and join that component to count parameter of both the components, and change the number of segments in one go for both the curves simultaneously. So you can also use number slider, if not integer. So we'll use the number slider and set it to integer numbers from let's say 1 to 100, and we'll set the number of segments from 1 to 100 in one go. Like you can just slide the number slider in and increase and decrease the number of lines between those two curves. So it is much easier for you to change the number of segments, the number of lines between those two curves. And one more thing, like you have many display options for the Grasshopper canvas. Like you can draw icons of the components, you can draw some fancy wires, and you can also draw full names of the components, parameters. Like you can draw the input parameters and output parameters. You can simply recognize them. So now what we'll do is clear the canvas of Grasshopper, and we'll see how we can refine something. Like we have made two curves, so we'll make another curve in the middle of these two curves using the curve command. So we'll type curve and we'll draw a curve between these two curves. Then we have three curves here. So what we'll do, we'll double click on the canvas and type divide curve. So here we have the divide curve with us. So we have curve, count, kings, and points, targets, and parameters. So here we'll click on curve and then select one curve, that is the middle curve. Then we'll set the number of counts, like how many segments we'll be having in that middle curve. So you can use the number slider component, or you can simply double click on the canvas and type 0 less than 10 less than 100. So we have set a limit of 0 to 100 and 10 the default value. So this way you can also make the number slider appear on your canvas, and we'll connect it to the count parameter. So now we have 22 segments divided in that middle curve. So now what we'll do is now take all these points in the middle curve and project them on the side curves, so that the projection has to be as short as possible. So it will find the point on this curve which is closest to this point. Then we'll create a new line from these new points. So we'll use a new component called pull point component in Grasshopper. Typing pull point component. So we have this pull point component which has input parameter as point, geometry, and output parameters closest point and distance. So we'll connect the point parameter with point parameter of divide curve. Then we'll copy the component and then select connect the point with the point component of divide curve. Now what we'll do is we'll right click on the pull point component and select one geometry, that is one curve, one of the curves, and repeat this process for the other curve as well. Then we'll see if there are any curves which have far away points. Then maybe we can adjust the curves and to locate the points properly, adjusting the curves. So now after adjusting the curves, we have to join these points with a line. So we'll use line component and we'll join start point with closest point and end point with closest point. So you can see there are lines appearing on the Rhino interface which are joining the points. So what we can do, we can take all 3 points of these 3 curves and create an arc segment. We can create an arc segment with it. So in Grasshopper, in curve tab, we go to primitive, and there we have lines, we have circles, and we have arcs with us. Then we have polygon, rectangles, and if you want NURB curve or catenaries or blend curves, so you can go to SP line, which have freeform curves. So you can use it from there. So we will now we have to make an arc. So we'll select arc 3 point, which will create an arc using 3 points. So we'll take a component which names as arc 3 point. it has 6 parameters, 3 input parameters and 3 output parameters. Point A, B and C are the input parameters, and arc, plane and radius are some output parameters. So we'll use this component to make an arc between these 3 curves. So we'll join point A with the closest point, and point C with another closest point, and point B with the divide curve point parameter, output parameter. You can see on your screen we are joining all these 3 points so that all the 3 curves are considered in making the arc. So you can see we have made an arc using all these 3 curves. You can also move the number slider, so the number of curves will keep on changing. And also you can adjust the curves and in the Rhino interface and move the number slider.